topics that we're going to be getting into and get a little bit out of our general bio stuff.
Is the stuff that we learned in real class?
No. 4 and 26. That's it. Okay, so chapter 5, histology, the study of tissues. Tissues. Note how we're kind of moving up that hierarchy where we started out at like the chemicals, we've gone to the molecules, we've gone to the cell parts, and we've gone to the cell, and now we're looking at cells that are going to make tissues. And one of the things that we're going to have to kind of get used to is thinking a little bit outside the box about our cells. Now, we've got lots of different tissue types, probably, over 200 tissue types within the body. And we're going to see how they're going to make up all these little different parts of the body. But one of the things that becomes important, okay, in these tissues and the trillions of cells that are going to make them up, it's going to be their structure. Now, to this point, we have pretty much thought about cells, animal cell, squishy, okay, plant cell, like a brick, okay. We're going to need to change our idea a little bit. Going to have to think a little bit outside the box, okay? Now, when we look at the structure of cells, one of the things that we look at is something termed extracellular matrix. In this case, extra, what is that sort of telling us? Outside of the cell. And that's letting me know right there, non-cellular. No cells in it. Okay? So it's around or outside the cells. And matrix. What do you kind of think of with the matrix? I don't know about y'all, but I think about the movie. Okay? And you know how in the movie, like if they were in, I can't ever remember if the Matrix was when they were in the Matrix or when they weren't in the Matrix. Anyway, okay. But you know the parts where it looks like stuff kind of goes like that, like everything's moving through a gel-type substance, okay? Very similar, okay? It's this really jelly-like type substance that has stuff existing in it. And it is so cool because that's sort of how things kind of do. They kind of, like they're moving through a gel. So when we classify the tissues, when we classify the cells, we're going to say that it's either epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue, or nervous tissue. So these trillions and trillions of cells are going to be put into these classifications. The study of the tissues is termed histology. There are people that go to school to do nothing but this, okay? They do nothing but look at tissues, cells, all day long. They're called histologists, okay? Very interesting field, for sure, okay? We get to look at the cells by either removal of tissue, biopsy, people go have biopsy, that's what they want to do. They want to look at those cells. Or autopsy, when they're dead, and cut everything open, So it's really kind of cool how we get to look at all these classes of tissues. Now your textbook is going to get pretty detailed about these germ layers. I'm going to let you know what I want you to know, okay? The germ layers. We have an inner, a middle, and an outer layer. We have endo, meso, ecto. All right, those are what we term. Now, germ means beginning, okay, the start. All right, that's what's meant by the germ layer. So, the endo gives rise to the digestive tract and its derivatives. The middle layer, the meso, gives rise to tissues such as muscle, bone, and blood vessels. The ecto helps to form the skin and then wrappings around neural tissue, neuroectoderm. In the first class, epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue, it's made up mostly of cells. Hello, okay, duh. Aren't we made up of cells? I mean, that was sort of like a duh statement. Here's the difference. These are going to have very little extracellular matrix. The extracellular matrix actually becomes important. So, epithelial tissue, it's going to help to cover the body surface, what we know as our skin, and then it will help to form certain glands. What do you think of when you hear glands?
Sweat glands.
Sweat glands, oil glands, ceruminous glands. Okay, so we're going to see this tissue. It's going to be the outside surface of the body. It's going to line, now look at what it lines. Digestive, respiratory, urogenital. What do all three of those have in common? They all have an opening to the external environment of the body. So they all have an opening to the external environment of the body. We're going to see it be part of the heart and blood vessels, and then it's going to be the tissue that's going to line body cavities, like the abdominal cavity, for example. Now, has a basal, and a lateral surface. What does that mean? At this point, your idea of a cell has been that. Yes? No. Okay, now I've got to get you to kind of think outside the box. Epithelial tissue, we're going to find it be attached to what's termed a basement membrane. Think about your skin, okay? Is your skin all saggy and hanging? No. It's kind of nice and in place, right? Therefore, the cell, what it's telling me about the structure of epithelial, we're going to have a basal, and a lateral surface, which tells me it's going to have some shape, something like this, in some way. Now, which of these do you think is the basal surface? Basal means what? The base. So where would the base be? Right down here at the bottom. So that's going to be my basal surface. What does it mean to be a free surface? It's not touched. This area up here is not really touching anything. So this is my free area. What does lateral mean? To the sides. So these cells, in some way, are going to have these surfaces. They'll be attached in some way to a basement membrane. They're going to have specialized cell contacts. Does that mean that they've got special 411 privileges? Contact what? What in the world does that mean? They're going to have to be able to stay connected to each other and connected to their membranes. So they're going to actually have some special ways that they can stay together. They are avascular. What does the term A mean? Without. What is vascular referring to? Vessels. So they're not going to have any blood vessels. What? How can they be a cell and not have a blood flow? How are they going to even be alive? Because aren't my nutrients carried to the cells by way of the blood flow? And don't I get rid of the waste from the cell by way of my blood flow? So how can they be avascular? How are they going to get their nutrients and get rid of their waste? Diffusion through what? Diffusion of what? What structure is up there that they could have diffusion with?
Membrane.
The membrane. So, the closer they are to the basement membrane, the more they're going to be able to reproduce. The further away they get from the basement membrane, the less they're going to have contact for nutrients and get rid of waste. What's going to happen to the cells as we move up in layers? What happens to the top layer of your skin cells? Because we're talking about the outside surface of the body. Why do they shed? They die. Why do they die? By the time you get to the outer layer of your skin, you have over 30 layers underneath of cells that are dying as they're getting pushed upward. Do you think of your skin being that thick? It's because it's not. It's thin. But the layers that are present will amaze you. And their contact on the very bottom is with the basement membrane. So that means those cells, they're going to have a high mitotic rate, mitosis, and they're going to push up layers. Push up, push up, push up. Further they get away from right here, they're going to die. Which is kind of cool. So that basement membrane. Yeah, it's like a glue. We get it from the secretions of the epithelial tissue itself, and then the connective tissue itself. So we have this glue type attachment, and so what we're going to find is connective tissue underneath. Connective tissue, just like the name implies, connecting. It helps with those cells moving where they need to go. For example, the skin, okay? In the kidneys, we're going to find that some of this epithelial tissue acts as a filter in the kidneys. And not all of the epithelial tissue that we have is going to have a basement membrane, but for the most part it does, okay? So what does it do?